Ever wondered who really runs the world's money? Not the presidents, not the billionaires, not even the IMF or the World Bank. There's a shadowy financial institution that sits above them all, quietly pulling the strings of the global economy. It's called the Bank for International Settlements, or BIS, and it might just be the most powerful organization you've never heard of. Let's dive in. Picture this. Deep in the heart of Basel, Switzerland, in a fortress-like circular tower, lies what many call the Bank of Central Banks. No flashy logo, no PR campaigns, no TV ads, just silence, security, and secrecy. Inside that building, decisions are made that can ripple across the world, shifting currencies, shaking markets, and even influencing your mortgage rate without you ever knowing. The BIS was founded in 1930, supposedly to manage World War I reparations and stabilize Europe's shattered economies. But it didn't take long before the bank's role expanded far beyond that. Today, the BIS acts as the central bank for 63 national central banks, including giants like the Federal Reserve, the European Central Bank, and the Bank of Japan. Think about that for a second. Your country's central bank reports to this bank. And yet, most people have no idea it exists. The BIS doesn't answer to any government. It's not accountable to the people. It even has diplomatic immunity, meaning its building, its assets, and its employees are untouchable by national law. Police can't enter without permission. Tax authorities can't audit it. It's literally a sovereign zone inside Switzerland, like a financial Vatican City. Now here's where it gets even more interesting and a little bit eerie. The BIS meets regularly with the world's most powerful central bankers, behind closed doors. Every 2 months, the elite gather in Basel for what's known as the Global Economy Meeting. No cameras, no press, no minutes released, just a few dozen men and women deciding the fate of trillions of dollars. And this isn't some conspiracy theory, this is documented fact. Former insiders have spoken about these Basel meetings where deals are struck, policies aligned, and global financial strategies quietly coordinated. In other words, this is where the real financial globalization happens. But what does the BIS actually do? On paper, it's pretty simple. The BIS provides banking services to central banks. It manages their reserves, offers short-term credit, and facilitates international transactions. But beneath that bland description lies something far more influential. It sets the rules of the global financial system. You've probably heard of the Basel Accords, international banking regulations that determine how much money banks must keep in reserve, how they manage risk, and how they operate across borders. Those rules were all crafted at the BIS. In short, the BIS decides how much risk your bank can take, which affects how much money you can borrow, how high your interest rates are, and even whether your economy can grow or crash. That's power. Invisible, but enormous. And the numbers behind this bank are staggering. The BIS holds over $400 billion in assets, but its real influence comes from the trillions it indirectly controls through central banks worldwide. Its clients include the same institutions printing your money and controlling your inflation. Now let's take a step back and ask, who controls the BIS itself? The bank's shareholders are, unsurprisingly, the world's central banks. Each has voting power based on its stake. But remember, central banks aren't truly democratic institutions. They're largely independent from their governments, which means the BIS is like an elite club of unelected financial technocrats who collectively influence the money supply of the entire planet. Some researchers even argue that the BIS is the pinnacle of global financial hierarchy, sitting quietly above the IMF, the World Bank, and even the G20. When financial crises strike, whether it's the 2008 meltdown or the recent global inflation surge, it's often the BIS that quietly coordinates the rescue plans and policy responses. And yet the average citizen has never heard of it. Here's a wild historical twist. During World War II, the BIS was accused of helping both sides. It handled Nazi gold while also working with allied central banks. The bank's neutrality and immunity allowed it to keep operating as if the war didn't exist. After the war, there were calls to shut it down, but instead, it became even more powerful. By the 1980s, the BIS was leading efforts to unify global banking standards. By the 2000s, it was warning about unsustainable debt and derivatives, years before the 2008 crisis hit. And today, it's quietly spearheading something massive: the global transition to central bank digital currencies, or CBDCs. Yes, the BIS is helping central banks design the digital money of the future. Through its project called M-Bridge, the BIS is testing cross-border digital payments between major economies like China, Hong Kong, and the UAE. The goal? A fully interconnected digital money system, fast, traceable, programmable, and managed by central authorities. Sounds convenient, but also a little Orwellian, doesn't it? Imagine a world where every transaction is traceable, where money can expire or where access to funds could be restricted based on policy. The BIS insists this system is about efficiency and stability. Critics argue it's about control, financial surveillance on a global scale. Here's another fact that blows people's minds. The BIS doesn't just set banking rules, it also runs the Financial Stability Board, the group that oversees global financial security. And through its committees, it influences everything from crypto regulations to interest rate policies. In other words, when you hear about the Fed raising rates or the ECB tightening monetary policy, chances are those moves were already discussed, debated, and aligned in Basel months before. So let's connect the dots. One bank, immune from national law, controlling the regulators of your money, influencing global interest rates, designing the next era of digital currency, and doing it all behind closed doors. That's not a conspiracy. That's the Bank for International Settlements. The BIS describes itself as a forum for cooperation, a neutral space for central banks to collaborate. And maybe that's true. But it's also fair to ask, what happens when power becomes too centralized, too opaque, too disconnected from the people it affects? Because here's the truth. You don't get to vote for the BIS. You don't get to audit it. You don't even get to know what it's planning next. Yet its policies ripple through every corner of your life, from the cost of your groceries to the strength of your paycheck. It's like a financial operating system running in the background of the global economy, invisible, unaccountable, but always on. And here's the twist ending most people never see coming. The BIS's own motto is fostering monetary and financial stability. History shows whenever stability is manufactured by secrecy, control follows. So the next time you hear a central banker talk about global coordination, digital transformation, or monetary innovation, don't just nod along, pay attention. Those words aren't harmless jargon, they're coded hints about the next phase of global finance. Because somewhere in Basel, Switzerland, inside that perfectly round tower of glass and steel, behind layers of guards, encrypted systems, and absolute secrecy, the world's most powerful financial architects are already deciding what your money will look like tomorrow, and more importantly, how you'll be allowed to use it. While most people think of money as freedom, a tool to exchange value, the future the BIS is designing may redefine that freedom entirely. Imagine a world where your money is digital, traceable, programmable, and centralized. Every transaction recorded, every purchase monitored, every wallet tied directly to a central database. Sounds efficient, right? But what happens when that same system can also restrict what you buy, when you buy, or even if you can buy? All it takes is a few lines of code or a new policy update, and your access can vanish in seconds. That's the conversation happening behind those soundproof walls. Not in public forums, not in government halls, but in private meetings where unelected individuals steer the direction of the entire financial world. And the real question is, who's watching them? Who holds the hidden bank accountable when it stands above every nation's law? If this opened your eyes, don't stop here. Like, share, and comment, because awareness is the first step to transparency. This is the story of the hidden bank that owns the world. And now, you know it exists. Subscribe for more deep dives into the forces quietly shaping your future.